What's up, Undisputed listeners? It's your boy, Sharpe. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now back to Undisputed.
Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. We've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from LA. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Good morning, guys. Good morning. How we doing?
Good Defensive Player of the Year running, huh? MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.
Shannon, I got bad news for you. Here comes Joel Embiid in the MVP race. Here comes James Harden, maybe at the top of the MVP race. There goes your man LeBron, straight down.
Okay, well, we'll see. We're going to find out.
We'll see. It's interesting you guys bring up the NBA because, yes, we have a lot of basketball to get to, but in the NFL, guys, J.J. Watt has finally made his decision after keeping NFL fans on pins and needles. Watt announced he would be signing with the Cardinals. The contract is reportedly 2 years, and it totals $31 million. Watt will join former teammate DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona, and on the defensive line, he will be paired with Chandler Jones, who has combined with Watt for nearly 200 career sacks. This news was crazy yesterday. Shannon, how surprised were you by Watt's choice here to go with Arizona?
Well, I'm very surprised because all the teams that were seemingly being mentioned, Arizona was never really mentioned. And if they were, I think Fox Bet had them at like something 35-1 as a chance to sign J.J. Watt. So they were on the radar, but basically a bleep on the radar. Skip, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that he got this kind of money, given his injury history, given his productivity over the last 5 years. Now, Skip, you know what I think of J.J. Watt. For a 5-year stretch, I used to come on the show, for a couple of year stretch, I used to come on the show every day, and I tell you, he's the best player in football. That was the first 5 years. But over the last 5 years, Skip, he has been relatively unhealthy. He played, 16, 17? I think he played 4 or 5 games total. He was totally healthy in 18, had 16 sacks. And then if you look at 19 and then you look at this year, Skip, he only had 5 sacks. He played all 16 games. He had 5 sacks. And what you and I know, you from covering the game for 40 years, me from playing in the game and covering the game the last 15 years, is that guys don't normally get healthier as they start to age. And he's had a significant injury. Torn pec in 2019, tibial plateau fracture in 2017, torn lower ab muscle in 2016, Skip. He has an injury history. But here's the caveat. Skip, if you could secure the bag, basically $15.5 million for 2 years, $23 million guaranteed. Now, it's without knowing any other teams and what they're offering, this seems like a lot of money. And it might have been a situation where Arizona were only bidding against themselves. But that is a lot of money for a guy that's put up that kind of productivity over the last few years. So if you can get that kind of money, that kind of security, when your numbers seem to be heading in the wrong direction, Skip, you got to take it. Now, I know he said, excuse me, Kyler was one of the determining factors, but it's hard for me to believe that if Green Bay have a similar offer on the table, you like Kyler more than you like Aaron Rodgers? Josh Allen, Buffalo, if they have a significant offer on the table, you like him better than Josh Allen? Skip, I'll concede this. Kyler Murray, I believe, is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. But overall, from a team perspective, no, sir, no way. I can't go there. So for me, it seems to me one of the overwhelming theme, J.J. Watt got security that he wanted and a team that's pretty good. But are they better than Tampa? Are they better than Green Bay? Are they better than the Rams? I don't think so. So if he wanted to contend for a title, Skip, I think he could have really, if that was his main focus, I believe he could have went to other teams. But I believe money played a large role in this, and it should have. Guys, get your money. There's no guarantee that you go to a team, you take less money, you're going to contend for a Super Bowl, or you're going to be in the Super Bowl. Get that money and let the chips fall where they may.
Mm-hmm. So, Shannon Sharpe. Once upon a time, there was a movie, maybe even before your time, a great movie called All the President's Men. Do you remember Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman, about the Nixon-Watergate scandal? Their source was Deep Throat.
I do.
And what did Deep Throat keep telling them? Follow the money. That was the money line of that movie. Follow the money. Let's follow the money all the way to Arizona. J.J. Watt just took by far the best offer on the table. Should we be shocked by that? Not really. No. I think that's just who J.J. Watt is. He just said, I want one last cash-in paycheck. I got no huge problem with that, although you might think that after 10 years in the league, for what turned into a sad sack franchise, J.J. Watt in Houston was 3-5 in the postseason and obviously never went very far in the postseason. And you might have thought, well, his priority should have been Super Bowl ring, but it was not. It was $23 million guaranteed, $31 million over 2 years total. And again, no huge problem with that, but I know Ed Werder, my friend Ed, and I have nothing but great respect for him, had tweeted all along that the first criteria in his choice, to your point, was quarterback. Well, okay, back to your point. Aaron or Kyler? Aaron or Kyler? I don't know. I think I would go Aaron Rodgers. Where is J.J. Watt from? Originally, he is from the state of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Green Bay is in, as you well know from your brother's days, playing for the Packers. Oh, it's in Wisconsin. And so everybody leaped to the early conclusion. My friend Lil Wayne was all over it because he's the biggest Packer fan. He was crushed by what Brady did to Rodgers at Lambeau. I think he still hasn't really surfaced after that, but he thought, a ray of light. Lil Wayne thought, JJ is coming home to play for the Green Bay Packers. Well, they're supposed to be like $11 million over the cap. I don't think they offered very much, if any, money. And again, a lot of people leap to the conclusion, well, JJ would join his two brothers playing for the Steelers. Well, apparently that didn't appeal to him. And you can argue, well, what's left of Ben Roethlisberger? It looks like they're going to try one more go-round with Ben at a very reduced salary.
And they got less money.
Yeah. And they got less money.
Skip, not to cut you off, Skip. Yeah. They got less money than Green Bay.
I got it. So to your point, Cleveland was supposed to be in the running. We could throw in 5 other teams, even Tampa. There was some thought of, would he try to take minimum wage to go play with Tom Brady, with that defense, with that Super Bowl champion? No, he is not going to do that. And I'm not sure they wanted him to do that. And back to your original point, I think Arizona was bidding against itself. So to Arizona's credit, what has it done the last 3 off seasons? It's gone splash, splash, splash. It's gone Kyler, #1 overall pick, way to go. Then stole DeAndre Hopkins from those Texans. Yep. And then they sent the owner, Michael Bidwell's plane to go pick up his private jet to go pick up J.J. Watt and his wife from Houston and fly him in and make a big production, big marquee value splash of we got J.J. Watt. Well, do you have J.J. Watt? Because you and I went back and forth. Is he the best player in football? The first day of this show, September 6th of 2016. What did you tell me? You said he's the best player in football. I said quarterbacks included. J.J. Watt's the best player in football.
Quarterbacks included, yep.
Okay. I can't see it.
He immediately got hurt.
Yeah, I got it. But again, we've gone back and forth about Aaron Donald. I can see Aaron Donald as the best player in football before I could ever see J.J. Watt. But to your point, also, he's been beat up. I think some of it has been self-inflicted because he's trying all these stunt lifts for YouTube value, and he is more of a self-promotional solo act to me, but again, the sacks have dropped, the games played have dropped, and his ranking has dropped over time. If you really look at what he is, again, I'll go on your favorite website, the Pro Football Focus rankings of J.J. Watt. Well, he's been at the very top. He's been ranked, going back to 2014, he was their #1 overall defender. Not best player in football, but their #1 defender. And then he dropped to 5th the next year. Then 16, 17, he was injured. Then 18, he dropped to 11th best defensive player, still pretty good. Then he dropped 19 to 14th best overall. And last year he dropped to 21st best defensive player. Well, Shannon, 21st best defensive player, it's still very good. But
that's good.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of money for the 21st ranked defensive player.
It's a lot of money. And again, they got a big issue facing them with Hassan Reddick, who had 12.5 sacks last year. And I could argue right here, right now, Reddick might be slightly more valuable because he's so much younger and fresher and hotter. He might be slightly more valuable than JJ. Well, are they going to franchise tag him for, what is it, like $15.6 million? I don't know. I don't know if they have the wherewithal to do that now. So it may have come down to JJ Watt or Hassan Reddick. And did they get that much better? Again, Chandler Jones has been hurt. He's getting up there in years, but will he come back and be Chandler Jones? Yeah. Maybe. And again, there's a lot to like on their defense. We love Budda Baker. We love Isaiah, and you can go on. Murphy.
Isaiah Simmons seems to later in the year, Skip. The light switch seemed to have come on for Isaiah Simmons.
It seemed like it did. I agree. So there's a lot to like there.
Pat Peterson.
Yeah, definitely. But did JJ put them over the top? Well, I'm looking at the odds, and the odds didn't change. They're still around 40 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. 40 to 1. I don't know. NFC, they're around 20 to 1. And in the NFC West, they moved slightly, I think, from like 7 to 1 to 6 and 1. But guess what? 6 to 1 is still bottom of the barrel in the NFC West. And it's a very strong division, as you know. Seattle won it last year. We're still not sure what San Francisco is going to do with its quarterback. And the Rams
will be much improved.
Yep. And the Rams got their quarterback, obviously, in Matt Stafford. What's that?
Skip, it looks to me, Skip, is that, okay, look, we got to go attack the quarterback. Now, we don't know the situation in Seattle, if Russell going to stay or is he going to go. But in order to beat the Seattle Seahawks, you got to get Russell on the ground. In order to beat the Rams in that offense, you're going to have to get Matthew Stafford on the ground. Now, we don't know San Francisco's situation with who the quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Jimmy G? Are they going to go into the market? Or are they going to draft the quarterback? But they can run the football, and you're going to have to be able to stop that offense at some point in time. So to your point where you said, okay, they had Reddick, and he had, 12.5? He had like 5.5 sacks in one game against the Giants this season.
Yep.
So they might be saying, I don't know, was he in a contract year? Is that because we hadn't seen that kind of production in the previous 3 or 4 years? So what is it? Did the switch go off, or was it a contract season? But for me, Skip, when you look at it, Myles Garrett and J.J. Watt. Myles Garrett is every bit right now the player that Chandler Jones is, considering Chandler Jones came out the injury. Zadarius Smith. Now, I believe the Packers are going to waive Preston Smith because he has a huge cap number, and I don't know with that cap number the production match. So we'll see how that plays out. But Skip, $23 million guaranteed, 31 in total, 15.5 per year, which makes him the 9th highest paid defensive end coming into the season, which all but assures you Shaq Barrett is gone from Tampa. If J.J. Watt can get $15.5 million, Skip, what is Shaq Barrett going to get?
Well, he could get the franchise tag in Tampa. That's a possibility. So I don't know for sure that he's gone.
So that means so if you franchise tag him, you can't franchise Levante David or your wide receiver Chris Godwin. I don't believe they franchise Shaq Barrett. He's made it abundantly clear he's looking to break the bank. He's going to be now. Chris Godwin seems to be the most receptive to the franchise tag. Levante David, Skip, as you mentioned, he's like 31. He might be the same age as J.J. Watt. So he's looking to cash in on that great season that he had topped off by the Super Bowl, in which he did an outstanding job on Travis Kelce. So, but for me, Skip, when I look at this, I look at J.J. Watt's history. The first 5 years of his career, you can make the case he had the second greatest defensive, only LT, because Skip, LT won a Super Bowl and a league MVP in his first 5 years. He was Defensive Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year the same year. So only LT in his first 5 years had maybe a better 5 years than what J.J. Watt had. I can see that.
Okay.
But over the last 5 years, Skip, he wasn't even close to what he was in the first 5.
Agreed. And even, this is just me, even in those first 5, he never leaped off my screen. Again, I don't watch coaches tape. I just sit like crazy glued to my TV. And my rule of thumb is, did he leap off my screen the way once upon a time number 56 for the New York Football Giants leaped off my screen? His name was Lawrence Taylor.
Well,
you
Skip,
played.
nobody gonna leap off the screen like that.
Okay, I got it. Did you play against Lawrence? I think you did. Or did was
I didn't know. He was I came in 90.
Okay,
I came in 90, Skip, and that was he was kind of like he was still LT. He went to the Pro Bowl. If I'm not mistaken, Skip, he might have had 10 sacks that season.
Yeah.
He was still LT. Don't let anybody fool you. Like 91, 92, he was like, nah, his body had started to fail him.
Okay, all right.
He wasn't as into it as he was previously.
Right, and he had some off-the-field issues that he was fighting with, and that may have sapped some of his strength on the field. But the point is,
yes,
in his heyday, for our younger viewers, if you turned on an LT game and he was the original LT, I'm not talking about LaDainian Tomlinson, I'm talking about Lawrence Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
If you turned on the game on TV, he would leap off your screen because he was unblockable by 2 humans or 3 humans or whoever you wanted to put on him. You would see 56 just shred double-team blocks and get his hands on quarterbacks, if not outright wreck quarterbacks, the way he did Joe Theismann on a Monday Night Football game in which Joe suffered, what would you call it, a compound fracture of his leg?
Compound for yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, ended his career.
Okay. Reggie White, once upon a time playing with your brother, Green Bay Packers, he just leaped off the screen because he would just blow up the middle of an offensive line because he was just unblockable. And those are difference makers. They're transcendent players. And I'm not saying J.J. Watt hasn't been the best defensive player because he has been. But has he ever been what I call transformational, where he just transformed a franchise as both a playmaker and a leader of the defense? No, I don't. Again, I've always seen him a little bit more as a self-promotional, sort of a media-made solo act. So is he going to come into town? I know he said all the right things about the Bird Gang and the Red Sea and all that when he landed in the private jet yesterday in Phoenix, Scottsdale. But the point is, will he turn that franchise around as a leader the way, let's say, Tom Brady turned around the Succaneers? I don't think so. I don't think he has that gear in him. I'm not sure he's built that way because it's not like he transformed the Texans into a powerhouse where by sheer presence alone, leadership, charisma alone, that they followed JJ into battle. I don't think they did.
Well, Skip, I look at it like this. It's kind of hard for a defensive player to have the kind of impact like a quarterback because, Skip, I can slide the protection to him. I can chip him. I can run away from him. Where the quarterback has the ball in his hand on every single play, there's nothing you can do. You can try and hit him, but he still can have an impact on the game, handing the ball off, they run the game. Skip, for me, I'm going to take Wade Phillips. You know Wade Phillips. I know Wade. Wade was my defensive coordinator my first 3 years in Denver.
Yep.
He's my head coach for 2 years.
Yep.
Now, Wade Phillips should know a little something about J.J. Watt.
He does.
Because he's a defensive coordinator. And Wade also coached Reggie White. He also coached Bruce Smith. He also coached Von Miller. And I asked him when his first year, I think it was his first year coaching Von, I asked him about J.J. Watt. As a matter of fact, no, he was still in Houston, Skip, and I went and did a story on the Texans when I was at CBS. And I said, wait, I'm going to ask you about something. I said, tell me about this Watt kid. He's like, I coached Bruce. He was Defensive Player of the Year. I coached Reggie. I coached Ricky Jackson. He's in that breath. He's that good, Shannon. I said, Wade, you understand what you're saying? Bruce Smith got 200 sacks. Reggie White got 198 and a half sacks. Ricky Jackson in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's like, Shannon, 84. He's that good.
Okay.
I
And
will take Wade at his word.
All right.
Skip, he was that good for that 5 years, Skip.
Yeah.
It's hard to say somebody other than LT was better than J.J. Watt.
well, remember Wade's early line it might have been JJ's
They thought he was
second
gonna be a
year.
bust?
Yeah, we were talking about people think he's a bust. Well, he's going to have a bust in the Hall of Fame instead of be a bust, right? Okay, I got
You're right.
that.
Yeah.
But do we really think back to the Ed Werder idea that quarterback was number one priority? Did he really choose
No,
to
I don't
play
believe
with
that.
Kyler Murray? Look, I'm a much bigger Kyler fan than you are. And they crescendoed last year with the Hail Murray play that beat Buffalo on the last play of the game when he threw it to DeAndre for the big Hail Mary touchdown. But after that, I'll be the first to admit, Kyler, he'd been banged up. He wasn't great down the stretch. Yeah. And you know what happened?
I agree, Skip. I agree.
They tailed off and they went 8-8 and they missed the playoffs. So J.J. Watt chose the quarterback who tailed off at the end of the year and they missed the playoffs. Again, he played with DeAndre Hopkins in Houston, but is that it? I mean, do you think they were that close? I don't think that's why he chose Arizona. And
I don't either, Skip. I believe J.J. Watt, the most important thing was security. J.J. Watt got the bag. It's hard, like I said, Skip. I don't know if J.J. represented himself in this deal. I don't know if he had an agent. But without knowing, it's hard for me to believe Green Bay, Cleveland, Buffalo had the same amount of money on the table. Because, Skip, all those teams, Buffalo was in the AFC Championship game. Green Bay was in the NFC Championship game. Cleveland made it to the divisional round of the playoffs.
They did.
Hold on. You chose a team with a quarterback that didn't even make the playoffs over 3 teams that quarterbacks went to at least the divisional round of the playoffs? That doesn't make any sense. And you look at what Cleveland offered. Cleveland defense is loaded. With all those first rounders and Myles Garrett, now I don't know what they're going to do with Ogunjobi.
Yeah.
But, Skip, that defense is good. Denzel Ward, they first rounders, they can play offensively. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Odell. But with Hooper and Jarvis Landry and Higgins, Peoples, Skip, they have talent. And that offensive line, they got the best offensive line in football.
They do.
Top 3.
Agreed.
So, for me, this seems all about the bag, Skip. JJ secured the bag. Now, I got, Skip, I don't want people to think I got a problem with that because I don't. But it bothers me when you hear guys say, oh, championship, and then they go to the team that offers them the most money would have a better chance than getting to the championship. That's all I'm saying, Skip.
Okay, and final point, a lot of people tried to make the case that he chose to reunite with Vance Joseph, once upon a time your head coach, and not yours, but the head coach of the Broncos, obviously, who's bounced around the league, been a coordinator before, and he's now the coordinator in Arizona. And
he was the DB coach in Houston.
2011, 12, and 13, he was the defensive backfield coach. He wasn't the coordinator. It's a stretch to me that JJ said, I just want to be with Vance. No, I don't think so. You wanted that bag.
Because I don't. Yeah, he got it. Because I don't know. Vance can run the 3-4. He can run the 43. He ran the 3-4 when he was in Denver.
Yeah.
So Skip, for me, I look at JJ as a pure 3-4 defensive end, a 5 technique.
Yeah.
It'd have been very difficult for him to play every single snap as a 7 or a 9 technique, which is a wide 9, called the cowboy front. So he went to a great situation. He got good money, and you can say, well, look at Kyler. Kyler's up and coming. But at the end of the day, Skip, JJ secured the bag, and I don't blame him.
He
2
followed
years,
the money.
$31 million. 23 guaranteed. Must be nice when I think about those kind of numbers.
No mercy.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com. Reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, are just one click away.
For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. Download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you.
Zion Williamson led the Pelicans to an impressive 129-124 win over the league-leading Jazz last night. The second-year star ended up with 26 points, 15 of which came in the third quarter alone, and he had 10 rebounds on the night. Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram combined to add 49 points, as the Pelicans' record is now 15-19. So, Shannon, here's the question, though. Why isn't the Pelicans' record better at this point?
Because they don't play any defense. They're a historically bad defensive team, Skip, and only the Sacramento Kings play worse defense than what the Pelicans play. They nearly blew a 17-point lead. Skip, this game was supposed to be over. They come down and make a couple of threes back-to-back, and I'm thinking the ball game's over. I turn away and turn back, and the next thing I know, Utah has the ball with a chance to take the lead. Skip, that's their problem, is that their two best players are unconcerned with defense. I thought Zion Williamson would be a better defense. You told me, Skip, he was going to be an all-NBA defensive player. I thought he would be a lot better. I didn't think that because he's kind of undersized to bang with 7-footers and 6'10", 6'11" guys, but I thought he would be better defensively than what he is. Brandon Ingram is not playing any defense. He's an offensive guy. He's looking to put the ball in the hoop, and when your two best players are unconcerned or unwilling to play defense at some kind of level, you're going to let teams even lead that you think are insurmountable, Skip. A couple of threes, and everybody, because everybody, with the exception of the Lakers right now, can shoot and make threes. And so you're really, really never out of the ball game, and they let Bogdanovich get a couple of wide open looks. They let O'Neal get a couple of wide open looks. And the really thing that saved them is that Donovan Mitchell was really ice cold in the first half. I think he had 11 points in the first half on 5 of 13 shooting. So he was off. Conley didn't have the greatest night. But that's the reason why, Skip. Offensively, they can put points on the board. We see that. B.I. averaging, 25? I think, as a matter of fact, Skip, they might be the number one duo, or they're top 3 as far as scoring duos. But defense, and that's not Stan Van Gundy's calling card, Skip, is defense. But they play little to none. More time than not, they play no defense. And this is why I believe they haven't reached their potential, because teams get up and down the court. You're not going to win consistently. Now, unless you got what the Nets have, that can, on most nights, go get you 140. But even there, the Nets, Skip, they started winning games when what? When they buckled down and played a little better defensively. And so that's what the Pelicans are going to have to do, Skip, if they want to make the playoffs, want to make this push. Even just get to the 7-10, because those are play-in seeds, and then you see what happens from there. Yeah. But until that happens, Skip, they play better defense, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. By the way, they're still 2 games out of that round-robin round. So they're in 12th, and they need to be in 10th.
12th.
They're 15 and 19, which is completely unacceptable when you have Zion, who made the All-Star team, Brandon Ingram, who made it last year, and Lonzo Ball, who before your very eyes has come of age. They made a nice pickup in addition with Steven Adams, who's getting them 9 rebounds a game, so that works. They added Eric Bledsoe, who's sort of sharing the point guard duties with Lonzo. It's been pretty good, but to your point, the defense has been atrocious. It's not historically bad, but they're 29th ranked defense, so they're 2 from the bottom, so we can't go historical. But by the way, they're 6th in offensive efficiency. Well, that'll work. So the only way they've won their 15 games is they just have to literally outscore you and hope that you don't score enough down the stretch to catch them, right? And remember what they did against Phoenix back on February 19th, not that that far back. That they were up 102-91 going to the fourth quarter at home against Phoenix. They lost the fourth quarter 41-12. Okay, so whose fault is this that they've blown these leads and they're only 15-19? Well, I first guess this. I'm not a Stan Van fan. Stan Van Gundy, to me, doesn't work with today's kids who play this game. I think his words, his rants are falling on deaf ears among the younger Pelicans because he's not connecting with them, as you say, his calling card is defense. Well, they're playing little to none. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. I am a huge Zion fan, much bigger than you are, especially on the offensive end. And I did not say that he was going to make first team all defense. I just said that he will block shots and he will be active on defense they list him at 6'7". I think he's about 6'6", as you know. And he just doesn't play very hard on the defensive end. It's an afterthought to him. No. It used to be the calling card of Lonzo Ball. It's becoming more of an afterthought for Lonzo Ball, which is shocking and disappointing to me.
You notice that too, huh?
Yeah, I have. And I'm also the biggest Lonzo fan. But what is shocking me is how underutilized my man Zion is in the fourth quarter of these games, because Zion is like he legitimately made the All-Star team. He's averaging 26 points, 7 rebounds, which I thought should be 10, and maybe it will. Remember, he's only 20 years of age. He's played a grand total of 57 NBA games. So he hasn't even played near a full season of NBA basketball yet, and yet he leads the league at 61% shooting from the field. That's with players who've taken 400 or more shots. So in that high of the 56 players who've taken 400 or more shots, he's running away with the percentage lead at 61%. Well, he leads points in the paint, the whole NBA. He's 636 points in the paint. To Giannis has 572. And Shannon, if you look at historical points in the paint, and the stats are only kept back to 1996, but Shaq has the top 7 points in the paint since 1996. And do you remember 2000 when he just ragdolled everybody who played him, including Tim Duncan and David Robinson in the playoffs?
Everybody's head.
He just did. He terrorized the NBA. He turned it into more football, basketball, and they couldn't even referee Shaq because he was so big and strong at, what do we give Shaq, 7'1"? I believe he's 7'1". And
7'1", and probably this prime skip, probably about 330.
330-ish, okay. And is Zion 300? He may be, but at about 6'6", 300. But if you look at what Shaq did that year when he set the record for points in the paint, he averaged 23 points in the paint per game. Well, Zion has the next best season to all those Shaq seasons, which is this season. He's averaging 19 points in the paint, and he's only 20 years old. When Shaq had his most dominating, devastating season, he was 27. So he was more of a man with his man body than Zion is at age 20, having played only 57 NBA games. So let's let that, go ahead, take shape.
But Skip, you look, okay, Zion, 96% of his shots come from the lane. 83% of his shots come from the mid-range, the restricted area.
Yep.
Skip, he's taken four mid-range shots the entire season. But let me tell you why he's not getting more opportunity in the fourth quarter. I don't know if you noticed this, Skip. They're subbing him on the defensive end in the fourth quarter because he's become a liability on defense.
Yeah, but
Skip,
just a little bit.
You're a historically great player. They can't Skip. No great player. You covered this game far too long. You know there's no great player that they sub in that situation.
Yeah.
You can't.
Okay.
Because what happens? You get the what happens, Skip? You force them to miss, and you get the rebound, and your best offensive guy, your best guy, is on the bench. You can't run that risk.
Okay, last night they did it one possession where they put Josh Hart in for him, but they put him right back in when there was a change where they could get him back in on offense. Because he was going at Rudy Gobert last night. Rudy Gobert is, 7'2"? And if we could see one play that Zion made in the third quarter, he would just attack him and go right into his chest. And on one play, if we see this, he just attacks him, blasts him, and doesn't get the scoop and score, but just pogo sticks right back up and puts it right back in. Well, he's knocking Rudy Gobert back on his heels because he's a baby bull. And he's got ferocious touch. You know, he comes at you with 300 pounds, and he's got incredible ambidextrous touch. Well, I've never seen a force of nature quite like Zion in the paint, or if you want to say in the restricted area. But too often in the fourth quarter, he's an afterthought on offense. They don't run anything to get him the ball in the paint.
Well, yes, but the thing is, I would like to see, and like you said, he's only 20. So I'm going to give him a chance to grow and mature and give him an opportunity to work on his game so he can do something other than lay the ball up and dunk. And then that way, Skip, I can give him the ball on the wing and I can let him create for himself or create for other people. But like you said, he's only 20 years of age. But Skip, he might be 20 years young, but he's a grown-ass man as far as body and physicality, Skip. He just wrecking shop. I mean, he can just move grown men with the greatest of ease. He's Charles Barkley 2.0. That's how Chuck was.
Yeah.
He's Charles Barkley. He's a more athletic Charles Barkley.
He is.
That's who his game reminds you of. Now, Charles can shoot, Skip, outside. You know, Charles had range.
Oh,
Charles eventually developed into a very good three-point shooter. Not great, but a good one. He can make it. And like I said, Skip, you know, because he says things now, and some people like him, some people don't. People don't realize just how good Charles Barkley was.
I agree.
You realize how good Charles Barkley was because you covered him. But Charles Barkley
I did. But Shannon,
Zion can be that.
Hey,
Zion can be that.
When Zion wheels on people, when he whirls and spins, he does so with a quickness and an explosion that Charles didn't have. As great as Charles was, and he was a top 50 player. Yeah, but he doesn't have what this kid has. So what happened down the stretch last night? In the fourth quarter, Zion got one shot in the fourth quarter as they nearly blew, as you said, a 17-point lead, which they got in the third quarter. They were up double digits with 4 minutes left. And to your point, it felt like Utah, who has led the league in three-point makes, was coming back just on Bogdanovic's threes. And all of a sudden, it comes down to Zion having to, if we could see this, he had to shield off a 7'2" Gobert to get he was trying to go over his back to get the offensive rebound, and he shielded him, and they finally called an offensive over-the-back foul on Gobert. And here's Zion. These are the two biggest shots of the night, 2 free throws, and he swished both of them. He is clutch. I told you at Duke, he made a lot of big clutch gene shots. He's got it, but you have to feed him the basketball. And too often in these games that they've lost, close games, they lost a close game at Milwaukee by 4, they lost at San Antonio by 3. They're not feeding the beast down the stretch, because if he gets to the free throw line in the fourth quarter, he will make those free throws. So it's, you know, he's a 71% free throw shooter, but in the fourth quarter, it feels like he's a 90% free throw shooter. So I love what I see from Lonzo. From Zion. And Lonzo, right before your very eyes, he's just becoming a man. He looks like a pro basketball player to me now. And you realize Lonzo now is making 40% of his three-point shots. He has completely fixed his three. He took it from over here to conventionally over here, and it works. And he is fearless taking. He made a big 3 last night that looked like it might stand up as the shot of the night. He's improved his free throw shooting all the way up to 76%. He's becoming the player I thought he would be. But still, 15 and 19 is unacceptable. And to your point, they're going to have to at least commit to trying on the defensive end. And I'm not sure that Stan Van is the long-term solution for this team.
Because still, what happens if you're not very good defensively, you get down. How do you get stops to get yourself back in the ball game? We know, okay, you get the lead, but then you don't play defense, and all of a sudden they get a layup here, a couple of threes there, and what was a 10 or 12-point lead, all of a sudden you're fighting for your life. So the thing that concerns me about the Pelicans, Skip, is if they get down, how do they get stops to get back into the ball game unless the team turns the ball over and they're not a heavy turnover team? Now, they do have two, they're guards. You look at Josh Hart, he plays defense. Lonzo Ball plays defense. Eric Bledsoe plays defense. But their front court, Skip, leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to playing defense. Adams is a big body. But they're going to need more from Zion. They're going to need more from Brandon Ingram on the defensive end if they want to eventually get into that 7-10, maybe just go ahead and get to the 8 spot and just see, I think 8, see what happens. But you can't, 7 through 10 is the play-in. So that's what you're going to have to do, Skip. They're going to have to buckle down defensively. But like you said, Zion, I've never seen a man that size, that explosive.
Never.
He defies physics. Because he's going to always probably have problems with his lower body because dump trucks are not supposed to travel at 120 miles an hour.
They're not.
They're
I
not
agree.
supposed to be able to do what he can do.
Yeah. So, Shannon, bottom line, if this still young team ever figures it out, if the switch gets flipped, I would not want to deal with these guys in the first round of the playoffs because I think they're a handful. Especially Zion.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
If they find a way to turn it on. Guys, I want to transition to James Harden. Even though, the season, it started out a little rocky for him, he's finding his way with the Nets. He led the team in a bounce-back win against the Spurs last night in such a big way. Harden not only had the game-sealing 3 in overtime, but also made history along the way. Harden became the first player to record a 30-point, 15-assist, 10-rebound, triple-double with 0 turnovers. And after the game, Kyrie told reporters to, quote, get used to it when it came to Harden's play. Shannon, I'm curious how you feel about this as James Harden entered the MVP race.
Well, he should. I don't know how much, like the voters, Chris was explaining it, how are they going to look at what he did in Houston? Are they going to hold that against him because he literally quit on them and forced his way into Brooklyn? But since he's got to Brooklyn, he's 25, 11-9. Since he got there, they're 16-6 in the 22 games in which he's played. And Skip, what he's doing, it looks to me, because Kyrie has been mainly there, Kevin Durant, they haven't played a whole lot together. But because he has help now, he's not taking as many bad shots as he took. I mean, his shots now 17 a game this year, 22 the previous year. He's shooting a career high since he got to Brooklyn in 3-point. And a lot of the things that he was taking, he's like, well, I got to do this. Well, now he realized I don't need to score 40 every night in order for us to win. And for him to sacrifice his game, Skip, there have been very few guys that's been able to. He sacrificed his game. What we see from James Harden in Brooklyn is not what we saw from James Harden in Houston. So he sacrificed his game. He says, you know what, guys? You want me to be more of a facilitator? I can do that. No problem whatsoever. I can still get buckets. Y'all know I can drop 30, 40 if I need it. But that's not what you need. If you need it, just know it's over here. Kyrie, you having an off night? You need your boy? I got you. KD gonna be out for some time? I can take it over. Skip, yeah, he's in the MVP conversation, and deservedly so, because his ability to pass the ball, Skip, we know he'll score. He's an elite scorer. There haven't been better. They might not have been better 5 scores, especially at the guards. Now, Skip, I'm taking centers out of the equation. I take Wilt, Kareem, things like that. I'm talking about for backcourt. It's hard to say there have been very many backcourt players. Maybe Jordan, Kobe, but they were different than James. James makes it look so effortless. I mean, you look up, you're like, hold on. He got 30 with 12 assists, 9 rebounds. Hold on, we're in the third quarter. How'd he do that? I mean, and so that is Kevin. He's like, he's a silent killer. You look at the stat sheet at the end of the night and you realize, hold on, this man had this many points, this many rebounds, this many assists, a triple-double, and he didn't turn the ball over at all? As much as he had the ball in his hands, not one turnover. You couldn't force one turnover. Skip, he's special. He deserves to be in the MVP conversation. I don't know how much voters will hold what happened early in the season against him, but he definitely deserves to be in the conversation.
They probably will hold it detrimentally against him. I don't think he has a chance to win because he quit his way out of Houston. But, Shannon, if we just go in a vacuum in the time he's been in New Jersey,
oh, yeah.
You want to talk about special? You want to talk about every night I just sit back and I'm in awe of the artistry. We just talked about one freak of basketball nature, Zion Williamson, and the other one who's beyond Zion is James Harden. Just the basketball genius. Now he's thinking of himself as the orchestrator who scores as an afterthought. But to your point, he still averages 25 points a game and 9 rebounds that are close to being 10 and 11 assists, which is running away with the lead that LeBron obviously won the assist championship last year, but James is running away with the assists this year with 11 a game. Well, since he's been in New Jersey, they just keep creeping up, and now they're only a half game back of the Sixers for the top spot in the East. And remember, James has only played with Kevin Durant, the man I consider the best player on the planet. He's only played 9 of his 22 his Brooklyn games with James.
Brooklyn.
Only 9 of 22
Right.
with KD and James together. Out of, the 22 games are all special to me because every night he's close. He's had 7 triple-doubles, and he's leading the league in minutes played. So we laughed about how fat he looked coming out of Houston because he was trying to quit his way out. And he just immediately transformed himself into a guy who can lead the league in Brooklyn in minutes played. Well, that's impossibly great. And I keep making the case, as much as you don't like them on defense, he can be their best defensive player because this is a man who just a year ago in Houston was 3rd in loose balls recovered and 6th in deflections. And just 2 years ago in Houston, he was 2nd in the league in steals. Every night I watch him on defense, he disrupts a lot. He plays passing lanes. He gets his hand on balls. He steals the ball. He just is a nuisance on defense because his genius manifests itself in being able to anticipate where the ball is going to be passed or how it's going to come off the glass in rebounding because he's almost double digits in rebounds at 6 feet 5 inches tall and not a great leaper. And I just think if they pass the Sixers and get to the top spot in the East, I think he's going to take over the lead in MVP in my book. I don't think it'll be in most voters' books because he'll be disqualified by what happened in Houston. But even last night, Shannon, again, I love the Spurs, what's left of them, and I root for them, and I'm rooting for them in the fourth quarter. And James was just too great because he scored 15 in the fourth quarter, and he just would not be denied. And then, if we could see it, he hit the dagger in the game. And when he can hit daggers like this, he made a step back from about 28 feet. This is the end of the game. Look at this. I mean, if you can do that, I know it went around and around and fell straight down through, but if you can do that and lead the league in assists, you're unstoppable. I mean, because he's got the best floater in the game in the lane, and he can get to the rim like nobody can. And I don't know what's not to love about his all-around game because he's as dominant an offensive player as we have in the whole game right now, and that includes your man LeBron. I don't see anything like James Harden's genius on offense.
Skip, if you like offense, it's hard not to like James Harden. And if you look at his clip, they cleared the side out and say, you do what you want to do. If you want to shoot the step back, you can. We've spaced the floor to give you an opportunity to get to the rim. You see the guy was basically trying to hand check him, and James Harden slapped his hand off, saying, you know what? You think I'm going to go by you, but I'm going to pull up from 28 and drop this 3 and end this ball game, basically for all intents and purposes. Skip, offensively, he has no weakness in his game because, like you said, he can shoot the 3. He can shoot a step back 3. Now, the thing is, Skip, it's either a layup or a step back or a floater. I haven't seen James Harden shoot a mid-range shot in probably, 2-3 years?
No.
So it's either 3 or something going to the basket or at the basket. He's shooting free throws. But offensively, Skip, he's as good. Go ahead.
Shannon, he's ground bound. He's not a leaper at all because he doesn't have a jump shot. Like Bradley Beal is one of the great jump shooters this league has ever seen. He's a jump shooter. He has mid-range jump where he goes up to the apex, holds it, and releases it.
Right.
Well, James is all feet on the floor. It's step-back set shots. They're all set shots or floaters or at the rim. And he can just out-quick you. He has like underrated, it's almost like effortless quickness to get by bigs to lay it up off the glass. But he's rarely going to dunk on you. He can dunk, obviously, but there's nothing above the rim about his game, yet he's the most dominant offensive player all around that we have in the game, and his feet are on the floor all the time. Wow.
No question about it. Skip, I've never seen anything like James Harden because they were showing clips of him the other night. Skip, I've never seen a guy that can jump off either foot and lay the ball up like he can. Now, most guys, if you're right-handed, you jump off your right foot. Your left foot. And most guys, if you're left-handed, you jump off your right foot. But James Harden can jump off either foot and lay the ball up off the glass, or he can use that floater. I've never seen anything like this before. He's, Steph Curry revolutionized the game of three, but what James Harden has been able to do from the three and in, Skip, I don't know, we might not see that again because, we say Luka, a game kind of reminds you of that, but Harden, the slitheriness of which he can get to the finesse his way to the basket, that step back three, Skip, and now he can shoot a running three. How do you stop that? But it's a great luxury to have when you can take a guy that's won an MVP. He's won 2 finals MVP. We can sit him down for a month, and then you got another guy that's been an MVP, that's led the league in scoring 3 times, that's led the league in assists. It says, okay, well, you filling in for him. Boy, that's a hell of a fill-in, Skip. Nobody else has that luxury. And Anthony Davis goes out, the Lakers don't have somebody that can replace Anthony Davis.
No.
You know what? Ben Simmons goes out. Philly doesn't have anybody that can replace Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. So they got James Harden. The guy's had a 60-point triple-double, so you know he's special.
Bottom line to this discussion, Kyrie Irving, as big an ego as he has, he actually comes across to me as in awe of James' ability. As Kyrie said after the game last night, just get used to it. Don't keep asking me about him. Just get used to it because that's who he is every night. And yet, this team is so loaded. When Durant comes back after the All-Star break, which I assume he will with his hamstring problem, there's only one team that's going to be able to stop the Nets to me, and that's themselves. Because I don't know if Kyrie will stay happy all year. I don't know if he and James will clash at some point. So far, so great. Will KD be able to find a place in this? Because KD is not ball dominant. I think he will.
No.
But to me, the only team that'll be able to stop the Nets is the Nets.
Yeah, because, Skip, they can get whatever they want. Because you have 3 guys really that can go one-on-one and require you to come double. So when you come double, you're going to get guys, and they got guys that can spot up and knock down threes. The question is that when you're getting these wide-open looks, Joe Harris, will he continue to knock those shots down come playoff time? Landry Shamet, TLC, will they knock those shots? Because the double team's coming, Skip. They're not going to let James Harden and Kyrie and KD work one-on-one and beat them. I'm going to make the second tier, the role players, I'm going to make them score 25, 30.
All right.
To beat me. Because I know what James Harden, I know what Kyrie and KD can do.
And last final point, you laughed at me when I kept early on bringing up Bruce Brown as their best defensive stopper. Last night, their defensive stopper, Bruce Brown, scored 23, thanks mostly to James Harden. He made 10 of 13 shots, did Bruce Brown. So when you get him going and Joe Harris going, they're loaded.
Nicholas Claxton, in less than 17 minutes, had 17.
I know. I didn't even know he's on the team until last night.
No mercy.
Well, a few NFL quarterbacks have attempted to force their way off of their teams this offseason. Dak Prescott has remained quiet as he waits for a long-term deal from the Cowboys. One anonymous exec said, quote, everyone else is complaining. Dak is kind of lost in this. So, Shannon, what do you make of Dak's silence here?
Dak is playing it right. Dak know he can't win a PR battle against a football team. We see Russell Wilson starting to take arrows now for trying to get his way out of there. Dak has made it abundantly clear he would love to spend the rest of his career as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, but he wants fair compensation. He's unwilling, or he seems to be unwilling at this point in time, to give the Cowboys the discount that they want him to take for playing the position of quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry and Stephen Jones believe that, look, there are certain things that come along with playing with the Dallas Cowboys, especially at that position. You get opportunities that some other quarterbacks might not get. So you should be willing to give us a little kickback here. So because you're going to make it up over there. And Dak says, no, I'm not going to be willing to do that because I ran the risk and I dodged a lot of minefields. And last year I was unable to dodge that one because I ended up breaking my ankle. And now I missed the 12 games. I think 11, 12 games. And Dak says, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. So Skip, look, this is what we know about fans. We're coming in a pandemic. We had probably 20, 30 million people lose their jobs, and the market is starting, hopefully, the economy is starting to pick back up. They're starting to open up economies around, cities and states around the country. So hopefully that picks back up. The last thing people that lost their job or barely tried to scrape by is a guy saying, instead of 35 million, I need 40 million. Mm-hmm. Fans don't want to hear that. Fans have always sided with ownership because they look at it and say, like, man, hell, I'm just trying to live comfortably. I'm just trying to pay my bills. And you squabbling, you talking about you don't want to play for 35 million, you need 40? So Dak understands he cannot win a PR battle. So it's just best that he stays quiet, stay behind the scenes, let Jerry and Steven, they're going to do enough talking for both camps. Let them do the talking. I have said nothing publicly. You know my stance. You know where I am. And I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. But, Skip, you can't win a PR battle when a player starts talking about money. The first thing fans think about, oh, you greedy. Because I'll play for 100,000. But it's relative terms. Because if your boss said, you know what, I need you to take a pay cut so Helen and HR can get an extra 5,000, you're going to say, hell no. Well, that's what Dak is saying. Dak says, look, I'm not giving you money so you can spread it out to somebody else. I want all my money. Because Zeke got all his money. Amari Cooper got all his money. Jalen Smith got all his. D-Law got all his. And those offensive linemen that you paid, they didn't give you discounts so you could pay someone else. So I'm going to be unwilling to give you a discount at this time. Now, maybe at the end of this contract, if we come back and you see me again in the future, I might be willing to cut you a deal, but not this time.
So, Shannon Sharpe, you being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame,
yes.
I agree with your premise that almost always the player loses the PR battle when it becomes a contractual impasse. Until this one. I believe that Dak Prescott has run away with the PR battle against Jerry Jones, in part because
he hadn't said anything, Skip.
Silence is golden. By laying low, by staying off the grid, completely off the radar, he's the one player who's winning in the court of public opinion because all I ever hear, tell me if you hear something else, I don't read Twitter the way you do, but all I ever hear is pay the man. And I keep asking, pay him what? Well, nobody seems to know what is because nobody's talking.
40.
Okay? But I think it's been 40 for over a year. And yet, if that had been highly publicized going back a year ago, I think Dak would have lost the PR battle. But who is his foe in this PR battle? It's Gerald Wayne Jones Jr. Jerry Jones. He is the easiest target to me in all of sports because a lot of, especially non-Cowboy fans, they don't want to like Jerry. He talks too much. He's this, he's that. We know all the knock on Jerry. I love Jerry Jones. I get a kick out of Jerry Jones. I think he's far smarter than most people give him credit for. But in the end, because they have been a laughing stock of a franchise in that, I hate to even bring this up. It's too painful to even talk publicly about, but they haven't been to an NFC championship game, let alone a Super Bowl, since the 1995 season. And I wrote a book about that season called Hell Bent, and I guess they were hell bent the rest of their franchise life because they haven't even re-achieved getting back to an NFC championship game. So Jerry takes all the slings and arrows of, Jerry, what are you doing? You're the buck stops on your desk. You're responsible for all this. And now you've even screwed up the Dak scenario. You've almost all but parted ways with your franchise quarterback. Well, the reason that he has lost the PR, and I don't think he's just losing, I think he is LOST, past tense, lost it, is because Dak and his fairly new agent have played this perfectly and beautifully by saying nothing. That they lay so low that everybody even forgets about them, and all the focus is on Jerry. And Jerry and Steven, his son, who also sort of co-runs the Cowboys, they've talked and talked about Dak without really saying much about Dak because neither has gotten into a mudslinging contest over the actual figures. Obviously, Jerry Jones and Steven are the only two people inside that organization who know full well how much Dak is asking for and how much he asked for going back more than a year, almost a year and a half ago. And yet they have not leaked that to the media because, as my mother used to say, that would be cutting off your nose to spite your face. Because I think if they leak the actual demands of Dak and his agent, it could be damning to Dak and his agent. They could start to lose in the court of public opinion if you knew they were actually asking for 42, 43, and 44 and 45 million over 4 years. Well, we don't know the exact figures because Jerry and Stephen will not leak them. Because if they leak them, then a lot of Cowboy fans would start to get down on a Dak Prescott that Jerry still hopes, I believe, is going to be the long-term solution in Dallas. He can't figure out how to make it because he needs Dak and agent to compromise a little bit, come back into the high 30s, 38, 39 instead of 42, 3, 4, 5. But the point is, go ahead.
I don't see that happening considering that Deshaun Watson got $39 million with basically 3 years, 4 years left on his deal. So I don't see Dak with no years left on his deal giving them that kind of discount. Skip, you covered the league in 82 and 87 when they had strikes.
I did.
And the fans sided with the owners because they put scabs, that's what they were called, those replacement players on the field, and fans still showed up. And so the players ended up having to say, well, hold on, I'm missing checks, and the fans are still going to the game. I might as well just go on out there and play, get my check, because I got my kids in private school. I got to pay for this house. I got to pay for this Cadillac and this Mercedes. And so they crossed the picket line. So the fans sided with the owners. Dak knows that when it comes to this, because my number is Skip, they're going to put my number in the paper. It's going to be all over the internet. Dak makes this. The owners, we don't really know. We think they make them, every once in a while you'll see the NFL cut each team a check for $250 million or $275. That's not to say the local TV rights, the advertising that it does within their own city. But Skip, I think Dak knows this is what Dak did. Dak says, I'm going to find out how well I can trust. And I used to do this all the time, Skip. This is where you can tell your friends. You tell somebody something.
Yeah. And
you only tell one person. If it gets out, you know who told it, and you know you have to cut them off.
True.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Dak says, okay, only two people. Jerry, Stephen, you know. Me and Todd France, we know. If it gets out that I asked for this, you told it, I can't trust you because I really don't trust you anyway because I think you've been putting stuff out there to try to make me look bad to begin with anyway. So I really don't want to trust you, but I'm just going to put this out there. I'm going to put this chum in the water and see who's greedy enough to bite this bait.
Okay.
And for the better part, Skip, nobody has said anything. Well, they made him a fair offer, and I believe it was a fair offer. But that was the offer you needed to make more than 2 years ago, not at the end of the deal before you had him under the franchise tag.
By the way, I was there that fateful Monday night in 1987 when the star Cowboys all caved in and crossed the picket line and decided to play a Monday night game against the rival Washington football team, then called their nickname, as you remember. And that team coached by Joe Gibbs.
It was a Monday night game, wasn't it, Skip?
It was a Monday night game, and it was all replacement players, as you call them, scabs, but replacement players for Washington. And Dallas had Too Tall and Randy White and Tony Dorsett. It seemed like everybody crossed the picket line, and they got their golden tails beaten in that game by the replacement players. And that's when the fans said,
Washington won the Super Bowl that year too, Skip.
Yep, that's true. They rose right out of that.
Washington won the Super Bowl.
Okay, and I also
we had a guy from Savannah State that played the replacement.
I covered very closely
82
back in the early 90s and in 1993 the Emmitt Smith holdout that lasted 2 games. And trust me, it got ugly. It was mudslinging with figures being thrown back and forth between the two camps, Emmitt Smith's camp, Jerry Jones' camp. And finally they settled and Emmitt came back and they went on to win the Super Bowl. But that got really ugly, and I think some of that lingers to this day. There's still just an undertone of bitterness to Emmitt about how that went down. So my point is...
Oh, no question.
Yeah. So my point now is Dak has played this so beautifully because he says zero about it. There's no mudslinging. There's been respect between the two camps. And I believe Dak Prescott has flat out run away with winning the PR battle against Jerry Jones. So the advantage is all on Dak right now.
Skip, it's almost like Dak is selling a house. Okay, here's the price for the house. Are you calling me to pay the price for the house? Because if you're calling to get a discount or see what I will be willing to take off, the answer is no, so we don't need to have a conversation. This is the price. The price is firm. Serious inquiries only. Don't be calling talking about, well, this here needs to be this and that need to be that and that. You're coming off an injury and you remember those last 17 games? This is my price.
Okay.
If you're willing to pay this price, call Todd France. If you're not, please hang up the phone and try your call later.
Because of that, I believe this is going to be Dak Prescott's last season as a Dallas Cowboy.
Oh, boy. Really?
So you believe he plays on the franchise tag?
Yeah.
No mercy.
LeBron James has made the NBA All-Defensive Team 6 times, and 7th might be around the corner, according to Kyle Kuzma. Over the weekend, Kuzma tweeted this, retweet for King James, All-Defensive Team. Shannon, do you agree here?
I 100%. I 100% agree. I 1,000% agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Skip, he's playing really well. Skip, even though AD has missed, a third of the season, LeBron has really held it down defensively. And I think a lot of that has to do, now, Skip, I'm not saying they're a better defensive team without Anthony Davis, because clearly they're not. But I think it forces guys to lock in more because they don't have that protection. They don't have that cloak that's draped around them that's going to meet somebody at the rim, that's going to alter the shot. So now we have to lock in even more. We have to be really attentive. Our film study has to be spot on, Skip, because I don't think anybody's practicing right now because of COVID protocols. Basically, you're watching film and then you're going out there and play. Your practice time is the first quarter where you're trying to feel out your opponent. But Skip, he's been very, very good, Skip. He's number one in defensive win shares. He's number one in defensive rating among players that's played at least 30 minutes per game. Skip, he's as good as advertised. He's as good as we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. And we saw what he did on Friday night against Portland, where he had, the four steals and the 3 blocks, and then he followed it up with 2 and 2 on Sunday night, Skip. He's playing can he sit in the chair like he did early in his career? Nah, that's not what he is now. He's not going to do that. And we don't expect him to do it at 36, carrying the offensive load that he carries. But what he will do is that he will anticipate and pull an Ed Reed on you. He will chase you down. And then we saw the other night on Wiseman, he said, hey, meet me at the top. I got to talk to you. Wiseman tried it. You like James Wiseman. Did the same thing he did to him and your guy from San Antonio when he blocked it. You talking about he couldn't jump. Yeah, we meet you at the summit. How high you going, Wiseman? That's how high you can go? Okay. Go. Get it out of here. Tiago Splitter, that's who he blocked.
Oh.
Tiago Splitter.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Jakob Poeltl.
We been did him, man.
This is a very difficult topic for me because I have a confession to make.
What is it? What is it? I want to hear.
Last night, when this topic reared its ugly head, thanks to Kyle Kuzma, I thought, well, I'll check on individual defensive win shares that you just mentioned. And I was shocked. I was shocked. I fell out of my chair to find LeBron James is ranked number 1 in the NBA in defensive win shares. That's impossibly good. It's great. It should have been a part of your argument yesterday when we were talking about LeBron's MVP case, which I thought had taken a huge hit without AD over this 9-game stretch into the All-Star break, in which we said he could make or break his MVP case. And he got off to a 1-4 start. You lost 5 more cases of Diet Dew to me. I am rolling in 2021. I have a whole swimming pool full of Diet Dew. Yeah.
What about Schroeder not playing? Shouldn't I get a mulligan for Schroeder not playing?
Them's the breaks. And if he is the best player on the planet, it should have been, it wouldn't matter whether it's Schroeder or Fooder or Luder, or it doesn't matter who it is who's not playing for you. because you still had KCP and THT and all these other players that you've raved about, Markieff Morris. You got enough players that if he's that good, he should have gotten through this stretch without Schroeder. But the point is that I had no idea he was ranked that high defensively. And by the way, for those who don't follow this, the top 5 is LeBron and then Gobert. What's he? At least a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's second.
Yeah, it looked like he's going to be 3 times.
Maybe. And third and fourth on the list are New York Knicks named Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett, because the Knicks are suddenly 18 and 17 under Thibodeau and ranked number 3 in overall team defense. So he has got them doing what he does best. His calling card is defense, and they are playing defense for new coach Thibodeau in ways that the Pelicans are not playing defense for new coach Stan Van Gundy. But then I gave you 3 and 4.
And
what's that?
What's Frank Vogel's calling card? Defense. And who's the number 1 rated defensive team?
They're
Lakers. And they haven't slipped even since Anthony Davis went out. They're still number 1. And it's led by who? Who spearheads that unit? Go James. He is the MVP because, like you said, that's what they said about Giannis when Giannis was winning it. Yeah. Giannis plays both ends of the court. Okay, now we got a guy playing both ends of the court. Keep that same energy for GOAT James.
GOAT with quotes around it, because I point out Michael Jeffrey Jordan made, 6 first-team all-defenses, and LeBron's made...
No, he made like 8 or 9. He made like 9.
What am I thinking of?
He made like 9. Yeah,
LeBron's not even in the ballpark of Jordan.
We got 5, Skip. We got 5 first team. But I'm just saying, see, you said if LeBron is the best player on the planet, he got to hold this thing down. Well, Jordan was on the best player on the planet, and he didn't do anything until Scottie Pippen got there. Now, I want to know, if he's the best player on the planet, why couldn't he get past the big three?
No, he was already a defensive force before Scottie Pippen got there. Sorry.
No. I'm talking about when. I know what Jordan was defensively. But you got to be able to win. You got to be able to win championships. Okay. You got to be able to win games.
Scottie Pippen went along for a great ride with the true GOAT.
Don't do that, Skip. Don't do that.
GOAT.
Is Scottie Pippen a top 50 player?
Okay.
Is Scottie Pippen a top 50 player? Yes or no?
No, he's not. I know he was voted that, but I don't know how, because he's just not that guy. Go see what happened to Scottie Pippen once he went to Houston and then Portland, and tell me he was a top 50 player without Jordan.
It was old.
All right, so the point is, going down the list of the top 5 in individual defensive win shares, I got to 5 as Mike Conley. Utah's ranked 2nd overall in defense. And guess who's number 6 on the defensive win shares list? Kyle Kuzma. I was shocked by that. So you got LeBron 1 and Kyle Kuzma 6. And Kyle Kuzma is making the public case LeBron should make the all-defensive team. And I think he means first team all-defense. Well, so far, so great for LeBron. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You got 1 through 6. Can you tell me where Pat Bev is on that list? Paul George and Kawhi.
That's not the topic.
Those are defensive guys.
I'm trying to say something nice about LeBron James, and you're not letting me. You're changing the subject to the Clippers. If you want to talk about the Clippers overall, they're just better than the Lakers. So thank you for that entree. They're just a better basketball team, top to bottom, than the Lakers. And that will be proven out soon enough in the postseason, because you're going to have to deal with them this time in the postseason.
I just want to know who beat the Bucks. Did we beat the Bucks, or did we lose to the Bucks? Did y'all beat the Bucks, or did y'all lose? Because here's the thing. You told me my guy couldn't play any defense. And then you said when he blocks a shot, it's all chase downs. Now he's meeting guys. You saw he blocked Jones Jr., the slam dunk champ. Blocked his shot, almost hit his head on the rim.
Okay. So.
And he got Wiseman. And these ain't chase downs, Skip. These are not chase down blocks he's getting.
Okay, so here's the point. As you talked about earlier, for those who don't quite understand your terminology, you're talking about he won't sit in the chair, meaning he won't take a defensive stance and play somebody head up one-on-one on the perimeter the way he would in his younger days. Right. Okay, I got that because I watch carefully night after night. He often takes the worst offensive player on the floor because he plays Ed Reed center field. You're talking about the great free safety for the Baltimore Ravens. Hall of Famer. Okay, so he
Yes.
plays Ed Reed defense where he'll take the weakest offensive player, but then he lurks. He does what the great Larry Bird used to do. He's just all over the floor, disrupting the offense by stealing the ball, deflecting the ball, or, to your point, weak side chase down blocks. They're sneak attacks, but they're in the lane. They're not off fast break chase downs, but he'll come from nowhere, from the weak side, to swat a ball that the unsuspecting offensive player does not see coming. And he's gotten really good at that. That's how he's getting most of his blocks. They're not face-to-face, head up, I'm going to make you eat this. They're not those kind of blocks. They're unsuspecting blocks, and yet he's perfected the art of that, and that's what's made him number one in defensive win shares, and that's helped make the Lakers number one overall in defensive efficiency. So I give you all the above, and it helps remake some of LeBron's MVP case, except for the fact he's been horrendous from the three-point line. So he actually undercuts or disqualifies a lot of his defensive output without.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
You see what you did?
Well, how about that?
You just told me you was trying to.
I gave you yesterday, there was the 9-game stretch right in the middle of this last month of February in which he was so bad he shot 20% from three over 9 games, and they were high-volume shots. There was a 2 for 10 and then another 2 for 10. So he was killing his team on the offensive end in taking way too many threes, but maybe he was helping a little bit get some of that back on the defensive end. So I'm trying to say, way to go, LeBron. I give you that.
No. I knew what you was trying. I knew what you was trying to say all along, and I knew it wouldn't last very long when you talk about you was trying to give my guy some credit, because I knew it's just not in you. It's not in you to continuously heap praise on Goat James.
Okay.
So I was trying to cut you off at the path because I already knew where you were headed.
And the point is, it's not in LeBron to make clutch shots because he has no clutch gene. See the Washington game, which cost you 5 cases of dew effectively because they have to beat Washington at home, and he misses a free throw that would have won the game at the end of regulation.
But
and then he screws up the end of overtime and misses a 3. Way to go.
Skip, if you don't mind me asking, who's like number 2? Who's in the top 3 in clutch points in the NBA this year?
I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, it's Dame, LeBron, and Chris Paul.
Really?
So how do you get to be top 3 in clutch points if you're not clutch?
If you don't mind me pointing this out, LeBron James historically, is the worst star late game free throw shooter in the history of basketball. Look it up.
You know what? I want somebody to say Shannon Sharpe is the poorest billionaire in the history of billionaires. Yeah. Look it up. That's a great argument to have, Skip Bayless. He's the worst free throw shooter of historically transcended great players. Really?
I'm talking about late game clutch free throw shooter. There's never been anything worse than LeBron James, and they're called free throws for a reason. They're free. They're unguarded. Way to go, LeBron.
I knew
Congrats.
we were going to go this direction. Skip starts with the compliment,
I tried. He wouldn't let me. He doesn't want to hear it.
Criticism.
No mercy.
J.J. Watt will join forces with former teammate DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona, along with rising superstar Kyler Murray. The team's Super Bowl odds instantly improved with the signing, and an article posted on USAtoday.com went as far as saying the Cardinals are now in an elite group. So, Shannon, is Arizona now a Super Bowl contender here?
No, I don't believe J.J. Watt. His last 24 games, Skip, he has 9.5 sacks. He had played a full season last season, and he had 5 sacks. So I don't believe all of a sudden he thrust them into the upper echelon with the Tampas, the Green Bays, the Rams. I don't believe that's the case, Skip Bayless. And I'm looking at it. The Cardinals have 7 defensive starters that are free agents. Patrick Peterson, Marcus Golden, Hassan Reddick, who you mentioned earlier. All of these guys are going to – how many of those guys are they going to re-sign? Because if you lose 2 or 3 of those guys, what have you done by adding J.J. Watt? Skip, I don't believe he makes them a Super Bowl contender. I don't even believe he makes this defense elite. This defense is not even in Tampa's level. They're not even on the Rams level now with J.J. Watt. So I must have missed something. And he talks about he went there because of Kyler. Skip, do you realize last season in 16 games, Kyler had 5 games in which he passed for less than 200 yards. They lost 4 of those ball games. He was 14th in QBR. So all this ranting and raving about, he went there because of Kyler. Kyler needs to become a little more consistent and in order for them to get to where they want to be. But I don't look at J.J. Watt signing and so all of a sudden, the Cardinals are arrived. People are in trouble. I don't look at the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe my glasses, I need new glasses, Skip. I've had these for about 3 years, and so maybe the prescription needs to be refilled in them. But I don't see what USA Today is talking about.
I definitely think you need new glasses when it comes to viewing Tom Brady, because I see through rose-colored glasses, and they worked. They won me a whole lot of dues.
Skip, I mentioned Tom Brady. I gave Tom credit. I said I don't think Arizona's in with Tampa and some of these other teams. I gave Brady and Tampa credit, and you won't let it go. Skip, you won. You were right. You picked Tampa 14 months in advance. You were right, Skip. Okay, I was wrong. The world out there, Shannon Sharpe was wrong. Skip Bayless was right. Can we move on now?
Yes. And I will also be completely objective about this and say I was wrong about last year's Arizona Cardinals, because before the year I told you they were going to slip into the backside of the playoffs as a wild card team out of that division. And I thought when they got to 6-3, thanks to the Hail Murray that beat the Buffalo Bills in Arizona that Sunday, I thought they were on a roll and on their way to being at least a wild card playoff team. And you know what happened after that. They lost 5 of their last 7 games. I believe Kyler got beat up. I never could be sure what it was. It looked like he got his shoulder banged up, and he never could throw with quite the conviction and in the velocity that he threw with through the first 9 games. So whatever happened to him, he was not right, and he did not progress. He regressed over those last 7 games. So I'm not going to try to defend him, but I love him way more than you love him, and I love his future. When it came to J.J. Watt and the Ed Werder report, my friend Ed Werder, the whole idea of he wants to go to a quarterback who can help him win a championship. Well, it was on a silver platter to go back to the state of Wisconsin to Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, who are still a top choice, one of the top choices to win next year's Super Bowl. Obviously, they played a home NFC championship game, and they got Brady'd at home in that game. But the point is that I don't think that Arizona can be a contender because of J.J. Watt, because all they got from him was a splash. They got a huge publicity splash because it was a shock to the world. Right. J.J. chose Arizona. Right. Is it because of Kyler? Is it because of Vance Joseph, the former DB's coach at Houston for 3 early years of J.J. Watt? No, it wasn't any of that. It was because, as you made the point earlier in the show, I believe Arizona was bidding against Arizona for the rights to J.J. Watt to make the splash, and they gave him $23 million guaranteed, $31 million for 2 years, and they got their they got an explosion of publicity. So they're going to, once again, win the offseason the way they won it with Kyler as the first overall pick, with the DeAndre Hopkins steal of a deal with Houston, and now they landed J.J. Watt. But if they're going to rise and shine next year as a contender, it won't be because of J.J. Watt, because there's no way he's going to live up to that kind of money to me. And to your point, that kind of money might have just cost them any shot at keeping Patrick Peterson. I'm a big fan. And Hassan Reddick. Yep. I think they're going to lose both those guys. It looks like they're already going to lose Patrick anyway, but there's no way they're going to have enough to bid for his services. So those two are probably gone because of J.J. Watt. So if you look at the Fox Bet Super Bowl odds, they did improve fairly markedly on Fox Bet. They went from 45-1 overnight to 35-1, but that's still only 17th best Super Bowl odds in the NFL.
Right.
Okay, well, that's not great. You can't sell that as a Super Bowl contender, right? And their odds are still, they're the worst odds within that division that they play in. So that's a problem right there.
Exactly. But, Skip, you were covering the league when these two free agents defensively transform and moved. Is this the equivalent of Reggie White signing with Green Bay or Deion Sanders signing with the Cowboys? Is it one of those?
No. Hey, Deion Sanders just changed life for San Francisco one year. They won the Super Bowl. In Dallas the next year, they won the Super Bowl. Yep.
And then Reggie White just went to Green Bay for a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in maybe since Bart Starr.
Yep.
And they went to the playoffs the next year.
They did.
So I don't like I said, Skip, if this was if you were getting JJ Watt the first 5 years, I'm like, Skip, okay, they're on to something. Pairing him with Chandler Jones, even though Chandler Jones is coming off injury, okay. But Skip, I haven't seen what I've seen over the last 5 years. I don't see that JJ Watt. I don't see the guy that I'm used to seeing that I thought was the best player in football that's jumping off the screen. I don't see that anymore.
No.
So for me to say, oh, yeah, he's going to drastically change the fortunes of Arizona, considering they have so many pieces that's available in free agents, I don't know. So if you lose Patrick Peterson, you lose 2 or 3, you might lose all of them. What have you done?
I don't know. And Chandler Jones obviously was hurt last year. I love Chandler Jones, but isn't he getting up there in years? Can he live up to his former billing? I'm not sure about that. We both love Buda Baker. We love a lot of the pieces, Isaiah Simmons. But does that make it a Super Bowl defense? No, not yet. Can Kyler take a leap next year? Can Kyler become a top 10 quarterback? Yeah, I think he could. That's where you're going to get the bang for your buck is from Kyler, not from JJ.
Well, that's what it's going to have to be. But let me ask you this, Skip. When you look at what they added Arizona, they still, when the 49ers get their pieces back, their defense isn't better than the 49ers.
No.
We know their defense isn't better than the Rams. So you added J.J. Watt, and you still might be third. Maybe if the 49ers get a piece here or there, you still might add J.J. Watt. At best, you're the third best defense in a 4-team division.
I agree. And we're going to talk about Pete Carroll and whatever the problems are between Pete and Russell Wilson in Seattle. But I remind everybody, Seattle won that division this past year. I know they lost a home playoff game right out of the box to the Rams, but they won the division. They're still going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. So
I agree.
I don't know. To me,
they'll be a force if they have Russ.
Yeah, well, and I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's going. He can make all the noise he wants to. I don't think he's going anywhere. But unfortunately, I'm not sure Arizona's going anywhere either, except JJ's going to the bank.
No mercy.
March 10th through the 13th, the Big East tournament tips off at MSG. Will Villanova take the conference crown? Will Creighton or Seton Hall rise up, or will a Cinderella team emerge? Catch all the excitement on Fox FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic both led their teams to wins last night, and they continue to be top 3 MVP candidates with their play this season. Both bigs are averaging more than 27 points and 11 rebounds apiece, while Jokic has over 5 assists more per game than Embiid. 76ers big man picks it up by averaging almost double the blocks Jokic does. So Shannon, how about you? What do you think here? Which center would you rather have, Embiid or Jokic?
I thought I made this abundantly clear to you in the past, Skip Bayless. I'm not going away from Joe. I'm gonna take Joe because the thing that I love about him, Skip, I know what I'm gonna get every night. I'm never gonna have to cut on the TV, and all of a sudden Joel Embiid is a late scratch. The best ability is availability, and Joel Embiid has never missed less than 18 games in a season. He's already up at 6 right now. Jokic has missed none. Joel Embiid has missed 280 games since he was drafted in 2014. And so he missed 22 last year. Jokic has missed 20 total in 6 years. So I'm going to give the guy that gives me availability on a nightly basis. I know what I'm going to get on a nightly basis. And Skip, I mean, the numbers are very similar. 30, 11, and 3 for Embiid, 27, 11, and 8.5 for Jokic. Jokic is 6th in the NBA in assists. And Skip, you say you love Joel Embiid, and if you foul it, he gonna go to the free throw line and make his free throws. Guess who's shooting a better free throw percentage between the two? Yep, you guessed it, the guy that I took. So for me, because I know what I'm gonna get on a nightly basis, not only on a nightly basis, I know he's gonna be there on a nightly basis. I'm not gonna have to turn on my television or watch some channel and say, well, Joel Embiid is a late scratch. I don't get that from Jokic. I'm taking Nikola Jokic.
Okay, question. If both are available, who you got? Because I think in your heart of hearts, you're taking Embiid. If they're both available.
I'm taking Jokic. I'm taking Jokic.
You're not.
I'm taking Jokic.
I'm calling baloney on you.
No, I'm taking Jokic.
Who do you think a rival center or big man most fears playing against? Jokic or Embiid? I think it's Embiid every night. Every night.
Skip, you see what the guy does. The guy just gives you triple doubles out the yin yang every single night. You saw what he did last night. He was an assist short. What was he, 39, 13, and 9? Come on, Skip. He'll give you the business every night. Can shoot the three. High percentage from the floor, better from the three-point line, better from the free throw line. I don't know what else you want. He's giving you the same amount of rebounds, 5 more assists. So the points that he's losing, the 3 fewer points that he's averaging per game, he's giving you more because the other guys are picking it up because he's assisting the basketball. Give me Nikola Jokic.
Give me the guy who terrorizes, who dominates, who terrifies. Give me a Joel Embiid who strikes fear in the hearts of anybody who tries to guard him, because when he's there, when he's available, and he has been available more than not this year, I think he's in way better shape. He's in the best shape of his career and seems to be managing his injuries better than he ever has. He is literally unstoppable, because I have never seen a man this tall shoot the ball as well as this man shoots it. And I think he's a little better shooter than Jokic. Again, you can't argue with what Jokic is doing because he's 41% from the three-point line, but Embiid's 42% shooting threes this year. And you talk about the free throw shooting. This closes the case for me because, to your point, your man makes 88% of his free throws. My guy Embiid makes 86%, but here's the case closer. Joel Embiid has shot 157 more free throws than Jokic has shot so far this basketball season. 157 more because he attacks. He gets fouled way more, almost twice as much more as Jokic does. Jokic is always trying to finesse you, trick you, outwit you, out-savvy you. I get all that. And he's like a point center because he's averaging, to your point, almost 9 assists a game.
8.5.
That's outrageously great. I never thought I would see that. But Embiid's a very good passer and averages 3 assists.
He is.
But that team depends on Joel Embiid to score the basketball. And there are so many nights when I look up at the box score and he's made 13 out of 14 free throws. They're called free throws. He's a far better free throw shooter than LeBron James, if I may throw that in.
They got nothing to do with LeBron.
Well, it has everything to do with it because LeBron's the quote-unquote best player on the planet, yet this guy's shooting more free throws than anybody. He's made more free throws than anybody. 288 makes this year from the free throw line, leads the NBA. And Joel Embiid, just for the record, is the first 76er since Charles Barkley to average 30 and 15 for a month, which he just did in the month of February, which vaulted him right back into the middle of the MVP race. There's just something about, if I'm having to guard somebody, do I want to try to guard Embiid or Jokic? I got a better shot against Jokic. At least he's ground bound.
Well,
at least I can sort of slow him down and stop him.
See, but that's what makes him so dangerous, is because he's ground bound. It's the same thing that Luka is, because you don't see explosiveness and you underestimate him. And I think a lot of people still underestimate Jokic. And the next thing you know, you look up his stat line and he's got 34, 17, and 16 assists. And you're like, well, what happened? How did he do that? He can't jump. He can't outrun me up and down. He can't run like David Robinson. He can't jump out the gym like some of these other centers. But all he does, Skip, is that he got that 1 foot jumper, the up and under. He can shoot the three, as you mentioned. He can put it on the floor better than you think for a man that size. And I think the thing is, Skip, you look at him, he doesn't look athletic. He doesn't look the part, but he cooking folks. So for me, I'm going to take the guy that I know that I can count on. He's going to be there on a nightly basis. He's not going to have stomach issues. I'm not going to have to give him, some Similac or something to sell his stomach, Jenny. The Gerber baby food agreed with him. Nah, I'm going to take Yoke, and I know I'm going to get me probably on a nightly basis his average, 27 to 11. Because, Skip, you remember now, your guy went 6 of 20. He went 6 of 20 from the floor.
Okay, but I can pick out games when Jokic has a miserable game. I mean, you're cherry-picking games, to quote LeBron James.
Which one of the guys single-handedly was down 3-1 and brought them all the way back? Which guy did that? Single-handedly.
Kawhi Leonard. He did that.
No,
Yeah, he did. That's all on Kawhi. That's who it was. And playoff P or pandemic P.
Hold on, Pandemic P, he short his head again. I thought the pandemic was over. They started to open up, and then I watched Sunday game, and then I saw old Pandemic P went right back in. They closed the border, closed it up again.
Yeah.
Your guy.
Well, how about your guy? They call him LBJ, but I call him LB No J. LB No J. That's what your guy is.
Don't do that. Go James. Skip, these are clearly the two best centers in all the
They are, and it's ironic we're having this discussion or this debate because Jokic does lead in PER, player efficiency rating, which is the stat in basketball. He leads the NBA. But guess who's just a tick off in the 2 slot is Joel Embiid. And when it comes to rim protection, I can't back it up with stats, but I'm just taking Embiid. Embiid would scare me. If I'm driving the basketball on somebody, I don't, I'll drive it on Jokic. He doesn't scare me. But Embiid, he's going to swoop to the hoop, and he's going to make me eat it.
No mercy.
So Pete Carroll has a Super Bowl and 9 winning seasons with the Seahawks, but his time could be coming to an end. Russell Wilson has reportedly clashed with Carroll's offensive philosophy, and many have sided with the QB. The latest report is that Pete is the, quote, de facto CEO of the Seahawks, which has become a problem as of late. So, Shannon, is Pete Carroll the problem in Seattle?
Skip, things have never been the same since that fateful night in Arizona when Pete Carroll did not overrule Darrell Bevell and allowed Russell Wilson to throw that pass. Skip, we would look at the Seattle Seahawks totally different. There's something said there, and Mike told us, Skip, when we were going for the repeat, Mike said there have been a lot of teams that's won 1 in a row. If you want to be special, you win 2. Skip, we would look at the Seattle Seahawks organization differently had they gone back to back. And a lot of the pieces a lot of the players that held Pete responsible have been dismissed. The Richard Shermans, the Earl Thomases, the Michael Bennett's, the Abrams, all those guys, Skip, they're no longer there. They're no longer there. But Russell says, okay, if you keep saying, I'm the guy, but all you want to do is turn around and run the football and play defense. Well, we don't have that type of defense anymore, and I should be involved in the communication. Skip, I was watching the other night, and they had Tom Brady. Earlier, after he had won a couple of Super Bowls, he's in Coach Belichick's office, and he's like, well, you know what? If Ed Reed does this, if we run the flag here, and Ed Reed jets it there, we should have the guy on the backside does this because he's going to be wide open. And Coach Belichick said, you're saying this? Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll make a note of that. Russ is saying, I should get some of that, right? I've won a Super Bowl. I've been a top player in this league. And it seems every time I make a suggestion, it falls on deaf ears. And I want to know why. So that's a problem when your quarterback, the star of your football team, doesn't feel like his voice is being heard. He says, well, if you don't want to hear my voice, let me go somewhere where they will listen to my voice. They got a problem on their hands, Skip. And for Russ to take this kind of stance, Skip, Russ is very quiet, very reserved now. Since he's been married, he's posting more stuff on social media. I get that. He loves his wife, rightfully so. What's not to love about her? She's a great mom. She's a great entertainer. But for Russ to take this kind of stance, this kind of approach with his football career, Skip, I don't think anybody saw this coming. And Pete Carroll should tread very, very lightly when dealing with Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I agree. It seems like quarterback and head coach are on a collision course. And I was surprised to read in several stories last night that Pete Carroll has final say in this franchise. He has total control even over John Schneider, the GM. that the buck stops on his desk, on Pete Carroll's desk. Wow. I didn't realize that, and that can be dangerous business, as you know, because you're wearing both hats and maybe you don't see the forest for the trees. But I get you on the flashpoint moment at the end of that New England Super Bowl, obviously played in Arizona. And yet I defended the decision only because the track record of Marshawn Lynch through that year in the regular season was he had tried 4 times to ram it home from the 1-yard line, and he'd been stopped 3 out of 4. So they did put the ball in Russell's hands on the play of the game, and they threw or called what they thought was a very low-risk pass. And you know and I know Malcolm Butler made, I think, the greatest jump on the football by a defensive back I have ever seen on the goal line.
Yes.
And literally just tore it out of, what was his name, Ricardo Lockett's hands.
Lockett.
Yeah. But he's a big, strong, possession-type receiver, and Malcolm just snatched it from him. And it took me about 30 seconds to even realize what had happened. I couldn't even figure out how it happened. But I get you. I don't have a problem with the play call, but to your point, the locker room had a huge problem with it, so that became a Pete Carroll problem. and he solved it by getting rid of the problem, because to your point, one by one, gone. That was the Legion of Boom, one of the great defenses we see in the history of the league. And yet that Legion of Boom held a 24-14 lead going to the fourth quarter against Tom Brady, and he threw for 124 and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter alone to bring them back to victory. It took the greatest defensive play in the history of the Super Bowl to save the victory from the jaws of defeat, obviously. But it was the flashpoint moment for the undoing of that franchise. And yet the irony was Pete was trying to put Russell on the pedestal. And I do believe, in their heart of hearts, they wanted Russell to be the MVP of the game, not Marshawn Lynch. And Russell, obviously he had won the previous year's Super Bowl, and they had a chance and probably should have pulled off winning a second one. But if you look hard at Pete Carroll's track record as a head football coach, he's not good, he's great. And it's hard for me to believe he's lost his fastball, because I just don't think he has. Shannon, if you look at the total impact of his career, just briefly, look at what he did. I know he took over Bill Parcells' Super Bowl team in New England, but he was pretty good. He went 27-21 in 3 years in New England, made the playoffs a couple times. Then he goes to USC, and he's just all-time great. And they go 97-19 at USC, and they win 10 straight Pac-10 or Pac-12, I guess they were, championships. And then they won 2 straight national championships, as you know, at USC. And then if you look at the totality of his performance in Seattle, well, he's won the division, made the playoffs 9 of 11 times. Well, that's great. How do you replace that? With Russell, he's won it 8 out of 9 times. He made the playoffs 8 out of 9 times. And they're 10-8 overall in the playoffs, 9-7 with Russ. Well, that's just greatness to me. That's so good. How do you replace that? And how do you argue out of the fact? When you think of Russell last year, if you look at over the last 11 games, we talked about this, Russell was ordinary. He ranked 14th in Pro Football Focus rankings over the last 11th game. He was 14th ranked quarterback. He was 2nd in turnovers over the last 11 games to Drew Lock in Denver. He was 1st in getting sacked, and you're the first one to point out a lot of that is Russell's problem, because he runs into a lot of sacks because he just holds the ball so long trying to throw the home run. Well, I don't know. I can't condemn Pete Carroll for that. So I edge more to his side on this, even though Russell is obviously the franchise quarterback and you're going nowhere without him. But it's hard for me to say.
Exactly.
I got it. But do you really think that Pete Carroll should be fired?
That's my point, Skip. No. I don't believe he should be fired, but Skip, he should heed what Russ is saying. It's kind of like Coach Belichick. Coach Belichick says, I'm in charge. I run the show. We know the buck stops on Coach Belichick's desk. All the grocery. If he's not shopping for the grocery, he's sending somebody out and he's looking at the receipt to make sure they got what he's told them to get on the purchase order. So Pete Carroll, I get it. You're a coach, very good coach. But if you look at the situations, what has he always had? He had Carson Palmer at USC. He had Matt Leinart. He had Drew Bledsoe in New England. He had Russell Wilson. So he's had great quarterback play. Pete Carroll is no dummy. If Pete Carroll thinks he's winning without great quarterback play and he can just coach him up, he's going to be sadly mistaken. And a lot of coaches believe that. A lot of coaches actually believe, Skip, it's them. Oh, it's my scheme. It's my system. No, it's the Jims and the Joes that play in your system that make your system go. Don't you ever think it's you.
I got it. There's one other comparison to Belichick that concerns me, and that's the nepotism problem that Belichick's got two of his sons working for him. Pete Carroll has had two of his sons on his staff. I think one just left for a new job, but one is still on the staff.
Yeah, I think he's in Arizona now.
Yeah, and reportedly, Russell Wilson was having issues with the two sons and their input into game plans. So that's hard to defend. I don't know the inner workings of the Seahawks.
To those guys. Oh, so Russell said, hold on, Pete. You listen to those guys give you input into a game plan, but when I say something, mine fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you're gonna trust those guys? Okay. Well, I need to get somewhere where they'll listen to me. They'll hear what I have to say. I'm not saying they need to put everything that I say into a game plan, but they will at least listen to what I have to say. You're not hearing what I got to say. Okay, it's your team. Do it your way. I'm going to get somewhere where we can do it. We can kind of share.
All right. So all I know, bottom line is, if the relationship between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson has terminally soured, then we will take Russ in Dallas. We'll take him. We'll give you Dak for Russell. I bet you will take Russ.
He don't want to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
He's going to Vegas. Sierra already got a residency. She already got something at the Wynn or the Palm or somewhere where she's going to be doing nightly.
How do you know that?
So, I don't know that, but it sounds good. I would try to keep him away from the Cowboys. Say,
are you reporting some inside scoop here, Shannon? That does make a lot of sense, but I'm just
trying to keep him away from the Cowboys.
I understand. I've heard this from you before. Skip, I hear you, and maybe Russ has heard you as well.
No mercy.
LaMelo Ball continues to impress in his rookie year by joining LeBron and Luka as the only players to average at least 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists in a calendar month as a teenager. LaMelo has already been living up to the hype from his father that he would be better, than his older brother, Lonzo, who has a little over 3 years of experience under his belt. And, he's having the best season of his career right now. So, Shannon, is LaMelo already better than Lonzo?
I don't know if he's better, but I would take him because of his upside, Skip. He can score the ball a lot better than his other brother can, and he makes it look easy. The way his ability to drive and finish at the rim, his three-point shooting, although Lonzo has gotten vastly better at shooting the three, LaMelo looks like a better shooter, a pure shooter of the two brothers. He looks like he's a little taller, Skip, and although he doesn't guard as well, he plays passing lanes. His anticipation is a lot better than Lonzo. So for me, if you said, okay, Shannon, you get one brother right now, I would take Melo. I would take Melo right now because I believe of his upside. Skip, since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, he's averaging 20 points a game. So he's going to be a starter for the very foreseeable future. And would I be surprised to see him as a 25, 7-7 guy? I would not. He's better earlier than I think people thought he would be. Because Skip, you heard he was projected because have easily been the number 1 pick. And people are like, yeah, over time. But he's better much sooner than people thought he would be. I would take him right now over Lonzo, and I believe he will be the better of the two players.
I mean, you said 25, 7-7. Shannon, I'm thinking more like 25, 10-10. I mean, this kid
he might could, Skip.
This kid is gifted beyond gifted. And I got to credit our man, LeVar Ball. He sat right here next to me 3 years ago, And after we finished the show, we were just BSing about whatever, and we started talking about LaMelo, who was then very young, obviously, and he just flat out said, my youngest will be the best. And at that point, I thought Lonzo was going to be really good, and he's turning into a really good player. But he ain't this kid. Shannon, since Charlotte had to elevate LaMelo into the starting lineup, look at these numbers. He's played 14 games as a starter in Charlotte. He's 21, 6, and 7, and he's 19 years old. He's doing it effortlessly with a smile on his face, like he's almost toying with the game. It's like, you guys want me to play? If you want me to play, I'll show you. I can do this. And look what he's doing. He's making 43% of his threes since he became a starter and 86% of his free throws. He's a little better shooter than Lonzo, who has completely fixed his shot. Lonzo is now taking and making threes with authority and conviction, fearlessly. And I didn't think he'd ever be able to get away from this and bring it back to here where he could trust it. Now he trusts it because he's, as you know, he's all the way up to 40% from three for the year. Well, that'll work. He's turned into a real live grown-up NBA player. I just like the way he looks. His body's matured. His face is matured. He just looks like a professional basketball player. And I love his upside and his future. But his little brother, and by the way, I think Lonzo is being motivated by his little brother's success. I think they're starting to compete with each other long distance. And you know how that would feel with your big brother competing, you competing against him. But my God.
Skip, I agree with you. I think Lonzo is a better defender, but I don't believe Lonzo, even at his best, will have the offensive upside as this kid has.
No, he won't.
And in the NBA, it's still an offensive league. They've made it. They've opened the court up. They've done away with the hand checking, the hard fouls, and so they want to see people put the ball in the basket. And I don't know if Lonzo can put the ball in the basket like his baby brother can.
No.
So with that being said, I'm going to take Melo upside. At 19, like you said, Skip, he's 19.
19. And Shannon, I thought Lonzo's strongest attribute in his rookie year was his ability to shut you down on defense because he's about 6'6", he's long, and he's savvy and nasty on defense. But this year under Stan Van, I don't know, it's an afterthought. It's like he's quitting on defense. And meanwhile, his little brother, who I thought was playing little to no defense early on, I looked down last night. He's fourth in the NBA in deflections, to your point about just having that gift of seeing it and disrupting it before you throw it, that sort of Ed Reed gift, if you will. He's also eighth in the league in loose balls recovered. Well, that means he's playing his tail off on defense, because if you're going for loose balls, then you have to be playing hard. He doesn't look like he's playing hard because he's always got a big smile on his face. Lonzo never has a smile on his face. And the little brother is just having a ball playing basketball as a ball in the NBA.
I think the thing is also, Skip, his flair. He has pizzazz.
He does.
Lonzo is very matter of fact.
He is.
But if you look at Melo, the passes that he makes, he's this, and he's underhand flipping it. The relationship that he has with Mikal Bridges on the lobs.
He does.
They call it Airbnb. So for me, I was like, how good is he going to really be? I mean, because the guy hadn't really played a whole lot of organized ball, Skip, really since, he went to Lithuania, and then he went to this boarding school in Ohio, and he over in Australia.
Yeah.
I was like, Skip, he the real deal. He the real deal.
He's going to be an all-star. That's what he's going to be.
It's wild, too, Skip, because I remember when LeVar said that to you in the commercial break. And he said some crazy things, LeVar, but he has been right about LaMelo right now, guys.
No mercy.
Well, get this. Luka Doncic set a new record over the weekend, but it really didn't have anything to do with his play on the court. A one-of-one rookie card that was signed by Luka sold for $4.6 million, far more than any LeBron or Michael Jordan rookie card has sold for. This just adds to Luka's popularity after becoming a starter in the All-Star game thanks to the fan vote. So, Shannon, are you responsible for this? How do you explain Luka's popularity here?
some things you just have to comment without offering an explanation, Skip. He's immensely popular, Skip, but there was never going to be a one-on-one of me. There's going to be a 2-or-2 because I'm going to get one of those. There's absolutely no way. And I think that's what LeBron, because Skip, remember LeBron card? Sold for all that money. He's like, hey, I got a couple of these. And that's what Luka said, okay, you can make 2, but I'm getting one of these. Skip, I'm surprised. Look, I don't really know the memorabilia market. I don't know, I know the Honus Wagner, I know Mickey Mantle, some cards, some if you got a signature on it, some they don't want the signature on it. So I don't really know how they rate this. I know mint state and all that other stuff. I get that. But Skip, $5 million, I guess they said we're going to buy early and sell late.
Shannon, I'm still baffled by the runaway popularity that made Luka the preseason MVP favorite. He's a below-average shooter from the 3 and from the free throw line. He's been terribly unclutch. He was 0 for 13 during the regular season on late clutch shots before that recent game in Boston. He plays little to no defense. He never says anything that's very entertaining. He's not a great leader. His body language can be pitiful at times. What am I missing here? What has vaulted him to the top of popularity? He's rivaling LeBron's popularity.
Well, clearly, Skip, they believe that he's going to be a historically transcendent great player. And what you do is that you try to get something early, and then in 10, 15 years from now, that card's probably going to be worth, they're hoping, 10, 15 million.
Doing something right.
That's a lot of money for a card, Skip.
$4.6 million
So
worth.
early in
That
his
is it
career
for
also.
Undisputed. We're back same time tomorrow. Have a good day.